Regarding digital currency, we've seen recently in the last few days that China has proposed creating their own digital currency. And I was wondering how much of a threat is that to the dollar, to the dollar and its dominance of world markets? And if it is a threat, what can we do about it?
Well, I think there's sort of a lot of different kinds of things that fall under digital currency. Presumably, the sort of electronic forms of money China envisions are ones where things can be monitored again in an even more granular way than they're being monitored currently. The geopolitical thing I sort of wonder about is always that the U.S. dollar is a reserve currency of the world. There are some things about that are good for the U.S., some things that are more problematic. From China's point of view, they want to get they don't like the U.S. having this reserve currency because it gives us a lot of leverage over Iranian oil supply chains and all sorts of things like that. They don't want the renminbi to become a reserve currency because then you have to open your capital account and you have to do all sorts of things that they really don't want to do. I think the euro you could think of as was in part a Chinese weapon against the dollar. It didn't. The last decade it hasn't quite worked out that way, but that was China would have liked to see two reserve currencies like the euro. And even though I'm sort of a pro-crypto, pro-Bitcoin maximalist person, I do wonder whether at this point Bitcoin is also should also be thought in part as a Chinese financial weapon against the U.S., where it threatens fiat money, but it especially threatens the U.S. dollar, and China wants to do things to weaken it. So it's sort of China is long Bitcoin, and perhaps from a geopolitical perspective, the U.S. should be a little bit be asking some tougher questions about exactly how that works. But some internal stable coin in China, that's not a real cryptocurrency. That's just that's just some sort of totalitarian measuring device.
Venmo for the communists.
Yes.
Mr. Secretary, are you going to comment on that? That story made the front page of the Journal this morning, or Mr. Ambassador, about China wanting to start their own Bitcoin. What do you think about that?
So if I understand what they're doing is they're digitizing their currency. So separate from Bitcoin, it's still a fiat currency, right? That is still Chinese money that they are now digitizing. It has huge impacts for their surveillance capacity. They would pitch it as anti-fraud. You can prevent fraud from taking place. I suppose that's true. This is something I think they believe will reduce the costs of cross-border transactions as well for the Chinese. Your point about not wanting to be a reserve currency, I think, is right. I think they'd like it to be among a mix. They want to make sure that when Secretary Pompeo issues the sanctions against the Iranian leadership, that there is a way to purchase Iranian oil that we don't have the capacity to either seize, understand, or impact. And so I do think these digital currencies, separate from Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, are something you'll see more countries go to. The United States has a project where we're working on it too, but we will be slow off the gate. It has lots of implications for us here at home. And my guess is that we will not be the leader in this forefront, where an authoritarian regime like China sees nearly all upside from having the capacity to issue currency or take away currency from people who act in ways that are inconsistent with Xi Jinping thought.
No, absolutely. You think of one of the things that gives folks freedom is the ability to walk in with a $100 bill or some type of currency and buy something without it being tracked. But the Chinese will be able to track every single purchase that everyone makes. Now, we've freely given up that privacy in many ways with Amazon, so there's a record of everything that we purchase these days, it seems.